Iris Webb was caught as she slipped a book beneath her coat. It was a simple mistake. It fell from between her fingers, struck the shelf, made a sound, and the librarian's head turned. Otherwise, she would not have been caught. She hadn't been caught for 3 months. Mr. Howell was a small man with thick spectacles, his voice always just above a whisper. He looked at Iris, looked at the book, then back at Iris. "Miss." Iris stopped. She could have run. The door was 6 steps away. Howell walked slowly, she knew that. But running would be an admission of guilt, and admitting guilt this time would mean it was over. "What is under your coat?" "Nothing." "Miss." Howell stepped forward. "What is under your coat?" Iris took a deep breath and drew the book out. She placed it in Howell's hand, on Natural History, Volume 3, dark green cover, edges worn. It was a beautiful book. Tom would want this one, Iris knew, because Tom wanted everything, wanted to read everything. And Tom's fever was not breaking, and the doctor was not coming, and Iris was only trying to find what she could do. She stopped. She would not tell Howell any of that. It would not matter. "I will have you reported," Howell said. His voice trembled, not with anger, but with excitement. He had been waiting for a moment like this for years. It was obvious. "Wait." "I will not wait. This is the 3rd time, isn't it? Something was missing last month, and 2 months before that, I brought them all back. Afterwards. But I did." Iris's voice did not rise. She could not afford that luxury. "I returned every book. Check your records. Is anything missing?" Howell hesitated. It was true, and they both knew it. But being true was not enough. There was the act of taking. There was intent. And intent was the law. "I shall send for the police," Howell said again, more firmly this time. He turned, and at that moment, a voice came from the corner of the library. "Mr. Howell." The voice was young, around 20, a woman, but it carried such weight that Howell stopped at once. The weight of a voice came from status. Iris knew that, and this voice was very heavy. Iris turned. The young woman was walking out from the corner, a dark blue dress falling clean from the shoulders, nothing excessive yet, everything correct. Chestnut hair, a small face, large eyes, and at that moment, very calm. There was a book in her hand, as though she had simply been reading here, as though she had nothing to do with this scene. But she looked at Iris, and that look understood everything. "Mr. Howell," the young woman said, addressing the man, not Iris. "This library stands on the donations of the Ashmore family, does it not?" Howell's color shifted. "Yes, Lady Charlotte, however. And this young lady is my friend." Silence. Iris held her breath. "There has been a misunderstanding," Charlotte continued, her voice still calm. "I sent her to collect the book. I apologize for the confusion." Howell opened his mouth, closed it. He handed the book to Charlotte, not to Iris, but to Charlotte. And Iris understood very well what that distinction meant. "Of course, my lady. I apologize. I misunderstood. It does not matter." Charlotte took the book, smiled lightly, a polite smile, it said this was over, and walked toward the door. As she passed Iris, she glanced at her. "Come." Iris went. Outside the library, the air was cold, the November wind sharp. Charlotte stopped, turned, and looked at Iris, this time without that polite smile. In its place was something else: curiosity, calculation, and a decision. "What is your name?" "Iris. Iris Webb." "Iris Webb." Charlotte repeated it, as though placing it into memory. "You have been coming here every week for 3 months. Every week you take 2, sometimes 3 books?" You return all of them, after a week or two. I am here every week as well, Iris. I have been seeing you. Iris said nothing. Why do you bring them back? Because they are not mine. And yet you take them. I borrow them, simply without asking anyone. Charlotte watched her for a moment. Then, unexpectedly, she laughed. Short, genuine. Borrowing without asking, she said, is called theft. It is not theft if you bring them back. The law does not agree. I did not write the law. Charlotte looked at her, long, assessing. Iris had to endure that look. She had no other choice. This woman could have Howell reversed in 2 minutes if she wished. For whom? Charlotte said. What? The books. For whom are you taking them? Not for yourself. You return them. For someone else. Iris did not answer. Charlotte waited, unhurried. She wanted the answer, and knew she could wait. My brother, Iris said at last. He is ill. He cannot go out. He loves to read. Charlotte's face did not change, but something softened, very slightly, so little one might question whether it was visible at all. I see, she said. Then, I have an offer for you. Iris waited. I have a brother, Charlotte said. Edward Ashmore, the Duke of Ashmore. My mother wishes to engage him to the Pemberton girl. There is a dinner this weekend, informal but considered formal, the first step. My brother does not want this marriage, nor do I. Iris frowned. What does that have to do with me? You will play the role of my brother's fiancée for 1 week. Silence. The wind passed between them. Iris heard it. Howell's footsteps inside the library, a distant carriage, her own heart. No, she said. £10. Iris stopped. £10, 2 months' rent, Tom's medicine, winter firewood. £10 was tangible, real, not something to refuse. But she was refusing it. No, she said again. This is absurd. I will be engaged to a duke. I know who I am, my lady, and I know who I am not. 1 week, not even 1 day. Charlotte tilted her head, waited a moment. Then, and this froze Iris, she shrugged. Very well, she said. Then I will reverse Mr. Howell. Something sank inside Iris. What? I protected you just now. I can withdraw that protection. Charlotte did not say it harshly, almost regretfully, as though she truly did not prefer this. Howell is inside. He could return within a minute, and the records are there. For 3 months, every week, books leaving, all traced to you. I brought them back, but you took them. Charlotte looked at her. Iris, I am offering you a way out. At the end of 1 week, £10, and this matter is closed. Or I return to Howell, and what happens next you understand better than I do. Iris looked at her, at this young, beautiful woman who had everything, and felt 2 things at once. Anger and understanding. Anger, because she was being cornered. Understanding, because Charlotte was not wrong. She thought of Tom, at home, in bed, waiting to see which book she would bring today. 1 week, Iris said. 1 week? And then this ends. Completely. Completely. And your brother? Iris stopped. Does your brother know? Charlotte's lips curved. Not quite a smile, only half of one. Not yet. Iris closed her eyes. For a second, opened them. God, she said. My carriage is at the corner, Charlotte said. Let us go. They went. As Iris stepped into the carriage, she turned once. The library door was visible, closed. Howell inside, the records inside, and every Tuesday afternoon of the past 3 months inside. Then the door disappeared from sight. The carriage moved through the streets of London, and Iris thought, 1 week. Only 1 week. Why did things that simple never remain simple? Ashmore House was not the largest residence Iris had ever seen. London had grander ones, more ornate ones. But the moment she stepped inside, that feeling came. Everything in its proper place, everything in its proper scale. Wealth used not for display, but out of habit. That was more dangerous. Display was noticed. Once noticed, distance could be kept. Habit was not noticed. It drew you in. Charlotte took her straight into a small sitting room. Close the door. Sit. Iris sat. Charlotte did not sit opposite her. She remained standing, pacing the room, thinking. Iris waited. Your name is Iris Webb. No one will know that. What will my name be? Iris Whitmore. A captain's daughter, your father died 3 years ago. Your mother is in Hampshire. It is far enough. No one will bother to verify. Iris heard the story and felt something strange inside. How ready it was. Charlotte had not come up with this at the library door. She had prepared it before, which meant, how long have you been planning this? Charlotte stopped. For some time. And how long have you been watching me? A brief silence. A few weeks. Iris stood. So today was not a coincidence? No. You set a trap for me. I pulled you out of one, Charlotte said calmly. You set the trap yourself. I merely chose the timing. That was true, damnably true, and Iris knew it, and it angered her more because there was nothing to answer with. She sat again. What does your mother know? Nothing. We will tell her my brother found you 6 months ago at a musical evening. He kept it secret because you were not ready, shy, unwilling to appear in public. And your brother? Charlotte paused for a moment. He does not know yet. Iris looked at her. You are serious. I will tell him tonight. Tonight? Iris stood. When is the dinner? Friday. Today is Wednesday. I know. That is 2 days. I know. Iris pressed her fingers to her temples. And your brother? The door opened. Edward Ashmore entered and stopped. He took in the scene. Charlotte, standing. A woman he did not recognize, standing, both of them looking at him. Then he turned to Charlotte. Charlotte. Brother. Who is this? Sit. No. Edward stepped inside but did not close the door. Leaving it open was an option, an exit from this conversation. Who is this? Iris Webb. She will be your fiancée at the dinner on Friday. Silence. Edward looked at Charlotte, at Iris, then back to Charlotte. Then he closed the door, not for escape this time, but the opposite, so no one would hear. Come to the room, he said to Charlotte, his voice low and dangerously calm. Now. Let Iris hear. Come to the room. They left. The door closed. Iris remained alone in the sitting room and heard them. From the corridor, low voices, not Charlotte's, but Edward's. Sharp, clipped, controlled, but barely. The words did not carry. The tone did. Iris stood, moved through the room, looked at the shelves, books, framed pictures, a small figurine. She did not touch anything. Touching felt like claiming, and nothing here belonged to her. 5 minutes passed. 10. The door opened and Edward entered, alone. His face had settled, but not his eyes. Eyes took longer. He looked at Iris. Long, direct. His gaze resembled Charlotte's, the same family in it. Sit, he said. I am fine standing. Edward waited a moment. Then he sat himself, not at the table, but in the chair by the window, his back not to Iris, but toward the glass. That told Iris something. I do not need to look at you, but I am here. How much does Charlotte know? Edward said. What do you mean? About you. Where she found you, what she has been told. Iris thought. How much should she say? All of it. Holding back half was more dangerous. Once exposed, everything would collapse. She saw me at the library. She's been watching me for a few weeks. Today, something happened, and she protected me. In return, she made this offer. What happened? Iris paused. I was taking books from the library, without permission. Edward turned. For the first time, he turned fully toward her. You were stealing books? I was borrowing them. I returned them. Without asking anyone? Yes. Silence. Edward looked, assessing, not cold, but not warm either. Why? Iris had expected this. She had not told Charlotte everything either, only said brother. But this man asked differently. He wanted detail, truth. My brother is ill, she said. He cannot go out. He loves to read. To become a member of the library requires a reference, and we do not have the kind of reference they accept. So You were stealing. I was Miss Webb. Edward's voice was not harsh, but it was firm. Changing the word does not change the act. Iris fell silent. It was true, but you were returning them, Edward said. This time different. An observation, not a judgment. Every time. Edward stood. He paced the room, like Charlotte, the same family habit. Then he stopped. Charlotte's plan will not work, he said. My mother will see you at first glance. No one can be prepared in a week. I said the same. But Charlotte did not accept that. No. Edward drew a breath. The Pembertons will be at dinner on Friday. My mother expects a formal proposal that night, from them and from me. If I have a fiancé, the proposal is delayed, perhaps abandoned. If I do not, you marry Cecily Pemberton. Edward looked at Iris. Did Charlotte tell you? No. But you do not want it, and she does. It is written on your face. Something passed across Edward's face. Surprise, perhaps, or attention, Iris could not tell. Then it was gone. Cecily Pemberton, Edward said evenly, is someone I have known since childhood, an intelligent woman, and she does one thing very well. What? She gets what she wants. He paused. And what she wants now is this marriage. You understand that, do you not? If we proceed with this plan, you, us, she will try to find you. She will ask questions. She will investigate. I know. And if she finds out? Iris thought. If she does, I am finished. You continue. Edward heard that. He waited a moment. That is not fair, he said. No, Iris said. It is not. But you did not ask me, Charlotte did. And if I refuse Charlotte's offer, she returns to Howell. So there was no choice to begin with. Edward heard what Charlotte had done in that sentence, and his expression shifted. Slightly, but it shifted. I am sorry, he said. My sister sometimes gets what she wants, Iris said. Like Cecily Pemberton. Edward looked at her. Then, unexpectedly, he laughed. Short, real, tired, but real. Yes, he said. Exactly that. Silence followed, but it was different from before, less tense, more like two people measuring one another. Very well, Edward said. If we are to do this, and you are not obliged, whatever Charlotte says, we need rules. Iris waited. My mother will ask everything. How we met, when, where. You will memorize it. You will remain here for 1 week. If you return to your own house, inconsistencies will appear. And he paused. Stay away from Cecily Pemberton, as much as possible. Why? Because she will find you. Edward looked at her directly. Did you forget what I said? Iris had not. And my brother? What about him? My brother. If I am here for a week, who will care for him? Edward paused. He had not expected this question. He expected plans, strategies, rules. Not an ill brother. How old is he? 14. His name? Tom. Edward turned, walked to the door, called out. Graves. The head servant entered. Edward spoke briefly, precisely. An address, a physician, daily visits, all expenses to the house. Graves inclined his head and left. Edward turned back. Iris was still standing there, in the same place, but her face had changed. Controlled, but changed. This, Iris began, stopped. Thank you. You will be playing my fiancée for a week, Edward said. Ensuring your brother is cared for is the minimum. It came out harsh. Edward noticed. The harshness was not intentional. But he did not take it back. Because it was true. This was an exchange, and both of them needed to know that from the beginning. Iris knew it as well. It passed through her eyes, understanding, acceptance, and beneath it something small. Something Iris did not wish to name. Friday evening, Iris said. I will be ready. Edward inclined his head, left. Iris remained in the room. She looked out the window. London streets, night settling, lamps lighting one by one. Somewhere Tom was in bed, waiting to see which book she would bring today. She would bring one tomorrow. The physician would go as well. That was a good thing. Good things had a cost. Iris knew that from every stage of her life. The question was, how heavy would that cost be? Charlotte tried to teach Iris everything in 2 days. How to sit, spine straight, hands in her lap, legs together, never crossed. How to eat. Which fork for which course, how to hold a wine glass, how to fold a napkin, how to speak. Short sentences, direct questions were impolite. Silence was not to be treated as a gap. Charlotte explained these quickly, practically, as if reading from a list. Iris already knew half of it, from books. But the distance between knowing and doing was wide, and Charlotte knew that as well. My mother will see it at first glance, Charlotte had said on the second afternoon. From your hands, the way you sit, but most of all, what you do in an unexpected moment. Not the prepared ones, the unprepared ones. Then being prepared is not enough, Iris had said. No, being prepared is the beginning. After that, instinct. Instinct cannot be taught. Charlotte had looked at her. No. That is why it will be you, not someone else. Iris had not fully understood that sentence. But she had no time to dwell on it. Friday had come. Lady Margaret Ashmore entered the drawing room at 7. Iris had learned this from Charlotte, exactly 7, neither early nor late. It was her rule, and everything was arranged around it. Iris was in the sitting room 5 minutes before, Edward beside her. They were not speaking. It was something they had learned in these 2 days. Unnecessary words created mistakes. Silence was safer. The door opened. Lady Margaret was tall. Edward's height came from her. In her 60s, silver hair perfectly arranged, a black dress that was neither mourning nor ornament, simply correct. She looked at Iris, and Iris felt something inside. This look was familiar. It was the librarian's look. What are you doing here? Edward stood. Iris stood as well. Mother, Edward said. Let me introduce Iris. Lady Margaret approached, stopped, in front of Iris, directly close. The closeness was deliberate. People revealed themselves when brought too near. Iris smiled. The right size, the right duration. Miss Whitmore, said Lady Margaret. Her voice was sweet, which made it worse. Harsh voices told you where they would strike. Sweet ones did not. I have heard a great deal about you from Edward. I hope it was favorable, Iris said. Of course. Lady Margaret sat. Iris sat, spine straight, hands in her lap. You are from Hampshire, I believe? Yes, my lady. Which part? Near Winchester. Ah. Lady Margaret inclined her head. The Whitmore family. Your father was an officer? Yes, he passed away 3 years ago. I am sorry. She was not. Which regiment? Iris froze. 1 second. Only one, but one was too long. Something moved in Lady Margaret's eyes. She noticed. Edward spoke. He served in Crimea. Iris prefers not to discuss the details. I understand that. Lady Margaret looked at Edward, then at Iris, then inclined her head. Acceptance, but noted. Iris saw it. Of course, she said. The Pembertons arrived at 7:30. Lord Pemberton was loud, Lady Pemberton quiet, and Cecily. When Cecily Pemberton saw Iris, she did not stop. That mattered. Most people paused when surprised. Cecily kept walking, smiled, greeted, and looked at Iris just for a second. And in that look was this. I do not know you, but I will. Iris felt it. She did not stiffen. That would show. She smiled. At the table, Iris sat at Edward's right, Charlotte at his left. Charlotte had arranged this. Iris must always be beside Edward, under his protection, but Charlotte close as well, able to intervene. The first half hour went well. The conversation was general. The season, Parliament, London's new park. Iris did not speak much, only when asked, in the right measure. Then Lady Margaret turned. Miss Whitmore, are you fond of music? A little, my lady. I enjoy listening. Do you play? Iris did not play the piano. That was obvious. It was part of this class's education, and not part of Iris's. Not very well. Which instrument? The piano, though my teacher was not pleased. Lady Margaret smiled. On Friday evenings, we hold small musical gatherings. Would you join us next Friday? Charlotte plays, and perhaps you? Mother, Charlotte said. I am merely asking. Iris is more interested in literature than in the piano, Charlotte said. We spoke last week. She had very interesting thoughts on Dickens's latest novel. Lady Margaret raised an eyebrow. Indeed? Which novel? And here, exactly here, Iris did something. Not planned, not from Charlotte's briefing, but from instinct. Dombey and Son, Iris said. Though, to be honest, not Dickens's strongest work. The characters are too predictable, Dombey's transformation in particular. The reader sees it long before it happens. The table fell silent. Lady Margaret looked. Lord Pemberton looked. Cecily looked. And that look was different. Calculating. And Edward? Edward smiled. Very briefly, only Iris could see it. But he did. Interesting, said Lady Margaret. Her voice had changed. Still sweet, but now something real lay within it. Curiosity. And which work do you consider stronger? Bleak House, Iris said. Because no character is entirely good or entirely bad. Even Jarndyce, a good man, yet he fills his own loneliness with Esther, without realizing it. Dickens does not say it, he shows it. That is more difficult, more rare. Lady Margaret watched her for a moment, then took her wine. You are right, she said. Nothing more. It was a small thing. But at that table, in that moment, it carried weight. Charlotte's foot touched Iris's beneath the table, lightly. Good. After dinner, the drawing room. Men to one side, women to the other. That was the rule. Iris remained beside Charlotte, but Cecily approached. It was inevitable. Iris knew it. "Miss Whitmore," said Cecily. Her voice was sweet, like Lady Margaret's, but younger, sharper. "You are from Hampshire?" "Yes." "Near Winchester, I hear. I have acquaintances there." "Which district?" Iris felt tension rise inside. Charlotte had not prepared this, or she had, and Iris had forgotten. Which district? "Near Hyde Abbey," Iris said. That was real. An actual area in Winchester. Iris knew it from books. "Ah," Cecily inclined her head. "Hyde Abbey. I know a family there, the Hargreaves. Are you acquainted with them?" Iris was not. Could not be. "The name is familiar," she said, "but we were not close." "Of course," Cecily smiled. "When did you come to London?" 2 years ago." "And when did you meet Edward?" "At a musical evening. 6 months ago." "At whose house?" The questions did not stop. They accelerated. Each answer brought another, more specific, more narrowing. Iris recognized it. An interrogation, polite but precise. Edward arrived at that exact moment. He had been separated with the men, not a coincidence. He had seen Iris's eyes. "Cecily," Edward said, "your father is looking for you." Cecily looked at him, then at Iris. Smiled. Sweet, complete, revealing nothing. "Thank you for the conversation, Miss Whitmore," she said. "I hope we shall speak at greater length soon." She left. Edward remained beside Iris, low for her alone. "Are you well?" "No," Iris said, just as low. "You came before she asked which house." "I know. That is why I came." Iris looked at him. This man she had known for 2 days, made an agreement with, did not yet fully understand. But he had saved her twice tonight. The regiment question, Cecily. Both times he had noticed, arrived in time. "Thank you," Iris said. 5 more days, Edward said. Not harsh, realistic. And Cecily has only just begun. Iris knew. She looked across the room at Cecily, speaking with her father, smiling, everything normal. But for a second, just one, her eyes turned to Iris. The calculation was still ongoing. Iris took her wine, drank, and thought. Charlotte had said 1 week. 1 week was simple, it would pass. But Cecily Pemberton's gaze was not simple. And Lady Margaret's "you are right" was not simple. And Edward arriving in time was not simple. Nothing was turning out simple. That, at least, had been clear from the beginning. When Iris woke the morning after the Friday dinner, her first thought was Tom. Had the physician gone? Had the medicines been given? Graves was reliable. Edward had said so, and so far everything Edward said had proved true. But there was a distance between trusting and knowing, and that distance woke Iris at 6. She rose, dressed, went downstairs. The library door was open, the house library beside the small sitting room. Iris glanced in and stopped. Edward was inside. At 7 in the morning, the fire not yet lit, still in his coat, reading something. When he saw Iris, he closed the book. Early. "I was thinking of Tom." Edward stood. "Graves sent word last night. The physician went, the medicines were given. His fever has broken." Iris paused. His fever has broken. 2 words, but full. 2 words that ended 2 weeks of worry. "Thank you," she said. Her voice did not break, though it could have, barely. Edward saw it. He said nothing. Iris appreciated that. He did not say there was no need to thank him or that it was nothing. He simply inclined his head and picked up his book. "Breakfast is at 8, he said. "Mother has invited Cecily to luncheon today." Iris exhaled. "Why?" "She says she wishes to know you." "Mother or Cecily?" "Both." Edward walked to the door, paused as he passed. "I opened Bleak House last night. I thought about what you said about Jarndyce." Iris looked at him. "And?" "You were right." He left. Iris remained in the library. She looked at the shelves, full, each one full, hundreds of books. The people who lived in this house had not read every book, that was clear. But the books were there, like decoration, like power, like wealth. In Iris's home there was a single shelf, 7 books, all read, all touched page by page. Which was better? She knew the answer. But knowing it did not make these shelves any less impressive. The luncheon did not descend into disaster. That in itself was an achievement. Cecily sat opposite Iris. Not Charlotte, Cecily. Lady Margaret had arranged it, and Lady Margaret did nothing by accident. She had placed them face to face to see what would happen. What happened? Cecily spoke, Iris answered. Both were polite, everything smooth on the surface. But beneath that surface, Cecily's questions continued. Subtler now, more indirect. "Miss Whitmore, have you grown accustomed to London?" Slowly. "The first months are always difficult. I see it in my friends who come from the country. London's rhythm takes time." "Where were you staying when you first arrived?" Iris felt the tension tighten. "Where were you staying?" It sounded simple, but it was not. The correct answer required a district, a house, perhaps a family name. Iris had none of these. "With a friend." "Who?" "You would not know her." "Let us try," Cecily said, smiling. Iris paused for a second. At that exact moment, Lady Margaret spoke, asked Edward something. Attention shifted. Iris breathed. But Cecily's eyes returned. Brief, instant, and in them was this. "You escaped. But the next question is ready." That afternoon, Charlotte pulled Iris into her room, locked the door. "Cecily is investigating you," she said. Not a whisper, direct. "She already began last night. She has written to the Hargreaves family in Winchester." Iris froze. "How do you know?" "We have a servant who speaks to their servant," Charlotte shrugged. "This is how these houses function. When will the reply come?" 2, perhaps 3 days. Iris calculated. 3 days. The agreement was 7. 4 remained. If the reply arrived before the 4th. "The Hargreaves family does not know the Whitmores," Iris said. "They do not." "Then when the letter returns, everything ends." Charlotte looked at her. "Yes." Silence. "Why are you telling me this?" Iris said. "Because you need to know." "And the solution?" Charlotte began to answer, but at that moment there was a knock at the door. Both froze. "Charlotte," it was Edward's voice from outside. "Open." Charlotte unlocked the door. Edward entered, looked at both of them, understood the situation. "I know about Cecily's letter," he said. "Graves told me." "Then," Charlotte said, "what do we do?" Edward looked at Iris. Long, direct. Iris was beginning to recognize that look. Thinking, measuring, deciding. "You cannot stop the letter," Iris said. "It has gone to Hargreaves. A reply will come." "No," Edward said. "But we can change what that reply says." Charlotte narrowed her eyes. "How?" "I know the Hargreaves family. Lord Hargreaves is an acquaintance from Cambridge." Edward paused. If I write to him with the right words, he will say he remembers the Whitmore family. Silence. Then Charlotte laughed. Short, real. A lie built upon a lie. Yes, Edward said. His voice was even. At this point, there is no other option. Iris looked at him. That puts Lord Hargreaves at risk. Edward turned to her. Yes. Not you. Him. Yes. And you wish to do that? Edward paused for a moment. Hargreaves owes me. An old matter. He wishes to repay that debt. He stopped. But that is not the real question. What is? The real question is this. Will Cecily stop with this letter? The three of them looked at one another. They all knew the answer. She would not. Then, Iris said, send the letter. Buy time. But we must think about Cecily's next move. Edward looked at Iris. This time his gaze was different, not the earlier calculating one. Something else, less controlled. The agreement was for 1 week, Edward said. I know. 4 days remain. I know. Silence. Charlotte looked between them, said nothing, a rare thing. If Cecily finds something else in these 4 days, Edward said, the letter will not matter. I will not be able to protect you. You know, Iris said, it was always like this from the beginning. You said from the start you could not protect me. Yes, but it was easier to say then. Iris paused. The sentence was unexpected. From Edward, from this man, from 4 days of acquaintance. But it came, and it stayed in the room, and even Charlotte said nothing. Write to Hargreaves, Iris said at last. We will see 4 more days. Edward inclined his head. Left. Charlotte closed the door and turned to Iris. There was something in her eyes. Not calculating, knowing. Let me warn you, Charlotte said low. My brother is a good man. Since this began, he has been looking at you differently. Iris looked at her. Is that a warning, or are you telling me something? Charlotte smiled. That half smile. Both. She left. Iris remained in the room. She looked out at the street. 4 days. Tom's fever had broken. Cecily was not stopping. Edward had said it was easier to say then. She had known from the beginning that nothing in this would be simple. But she had not known it would become this complicated. On the afternoon of the 3rd day, Cecily arrived, for tea, at Lady Margaret's invitation, polite and deliberate. Iris learned this from Charlotte 5 minutes earlier, and 5 minutes was not enough to prepare for anything, yet it had to be enough. The drawing room. 4 women. Lady Margaret, Charlotte, Cecily, Iris. Edward was not there, a meeting with his solicitor, known since morning. This was the day Cecily had chosen. Iris understood that now. Tea was poured. Conversation began. The first 10 minutes were ordinary. The weather, fashion, a neighbor's new house. Iris did not speak much, answered when asked. Charlotte occasionally intervened. Then Cecily set down her cup. Miss Whitmore, she said. Her voice was sweet, always sweet. That was her weapon. Are you a member of any library in London? Tension rose inside Iris. Not outwardly. No. I obtain my books by other means. How? Booksellers, friends. Ah. Cecily inclined her head. Because there is a record at Grosvenor Library under the name Iris Webb. Weekly visits, books taken. Silence. A sharp, cutting silence. Lady Margaret held her cup, but did not drink. Charlotte froze. Iris? Iris breathed. This moment. This exact moment. There was no escape, no excuse, Hargreaves's letter did not cover a library record. Cecily had used everything at once. Name, record, library, all in a single sentence. "Iris Webb," Cecily said, still sweet. "Not Whitmore." Lady Margaret turned to Charlotte, then to Iris. And in that instant, Iris understood. If she remained silent, everything ended. If she spoke, perhaps not. "Yes," Iris said. Her voice did not tremble. "Webb is my maiden name. My mother remarried. We took the name Whitmore. The records are old. They were never all changed." The lie was not subtle. It was a temporary bridge, the kind that bought a few minutes. Cecily smiled. "I see." She did not. "And the library record, under the name Webb, books taken weekly. Yet you say you are not a member." "I am not," Iris said. "An old record. It was opened in my mother's name before the change. I neglected to close it." Cecily looked at her. The explanation held, barely, but it held. It could be broken, but it would take time, and here, in this room, before Lady Margaret, it was not simple to dismantle it entirely. The door opened. Edward entered, still in his coat, returned early from his meeting. He read the room in a glance. Cecily's posture, Charlotte's face, Iris's hands clasped in her lap. He understood. He stepped in, did not remove his coat, went directly to Iris and sat beside her. Beside her, very close as a couple would sit, Lady Margaret saw it. Cecily saw it. "Miss Pemberton," Edward said. His voice was polite, but there was steel within it. "When was this visit arranged?" "My lady invited me." "I know." Edward looked at Lady Margaret, brief, meaningful. Lady Margaret set her cup down. Cecily continued. "Edward, I am simply trying to know Miss Whitmore. We wish to know your fiancée. As a family, it is natural." "Natural," Edward said. "But there is a difference between asking and interrogating." It was not an interrogation. The library record. Edward said it plainly. "Where did you obtain it?" Cecily's expression shifted, a fraction. But it shifted. "By chance? Cecily." Edward said her name once, his voice lower. "Let us be honest." The room fell silent. Lady Margaret looked at Charlotte, Charlotte looked down, Cecily looked at Edward, and Cecily decided. Iris saw it. Something closed in those calculating eyes, and something else opened. The tactic was changing. "Very well," Cecily said. She lifted her cup, calm. "Let us be honest." She turned to Lady Margaret. "My lady, there is a complaint at Grosvenor Library from 3 months ago. Book theft. The name on record, Iris Webb." This silence was different. Heavier, sharper, the kind in which something collapses. Lady Margaret looked at Iris. Charlotte looked at Edward. Edward looked at Iris. And Iris looked at Edward. And in that look was everything. I know it all. What will you do now?" Iris stood. It surprised them all. Cecily, Lady Margaret. Standing could look like surrender. But Iris stood because she could not defend herself seated. Seated, she would diminish. "Yes," Iris said. To all of them, meeting every gaze. "I took books from the library, without permission." Lady Margaret's face became stone. "For 3 months," Iris continued, her voice level. "Every week, 2 or 3 books. I returned every one of them, every single one, intact. There is not a missing book in that library." "But you took them," said Lady Margaret. "I did." Iris paused. My brother is ill. 14. He has not been able to leave the house for months. He loves to read. It is his only comfort. Library membership requires a reference, and we have none of the kind they accept. So I went. I took them. He read them. I returned them. Silence. Cecily opened her mouth, closed it. She had not expected this answer. She had expected confession and collapse. The confession had come, but not the collapse. Lady Margaret stood. She walked the room, like Edward, like Charlotte, the habit of this family. She stopped by the window, her back to them all. No one spoke. Then Lady Margaret turned and looked at Cecily. "Miss Pemberton," she said. Her voice was no longer sweet, clear, cold. "Where did you obtain this information?" Cecily paused. "My lady, I asked a question. From the librarian, Mr. Howell. Who went to Mr. Howell?" Silence. "You did," Lady Margaret said. Not a question, a statement. "You spoke to a librarian about my son's fiancée. A legitimate concern? You are a guest in this house, Miss Pemberton." Lady Margaret did not raise her voice. She did not need to. The lower it was, the heavier it fell. And guests do not investigate those within it. Cecily looked at her. For a moment, just a moment, the mask slipped. Then it returned. "I understand," she said. She stood. "My apologies, my lady." She left. The door closed. The drawing room fell into silence. Lady Margaret turned to Iris and looked at her. Long, seeing everything. Iris held her gaze, did not look away. "Sit," Lady Margaret said at last. Iris sat. "Your brother's name?" "Tom." "How old is he?" 14. "What is he reading?" Iris paused. She had not expected that question. Natural history at the moment. But he likes novels as well, especially adventure. Lady Margaret nodded, took her tea, drank. "There are hundreds of books in this house," she said. "Most of them unread." She paused. "Tom may choose whichever he wishes." For a moment, Iris could not speak. "My lady, this matter is finished," Lady Margaret said. She stood. "Charlotte, I will see you at dinner." She left. The room became 3. Charlotte, Edward, Iris. Charlotte spoke first. "Mother dismissed Cecily." "She did not dismiss her," Edward said. "But she will not invite her again." "That is the same thing." Iris was still seated. There was something strange inside her. Lightness, unexpected, misplaced. Everything had been exposed, laid bare, and yet the room remained. The tea cooled, and Tom would be allowed to choose books from the library. Edward sat beside her. Charlotte looked, then stood. "I am leaving." She left. The two remained. Edward did not speak, neither did Iris. Then Iris said, "Your mother knows." "Yes." "All of it?" "Most likely. Mother always knows." "And yet, Tom may choose books." Iris looked at him. Edward was looking out the window, not at her, but his shoulders were lowered. For the first time, in this week, they had dropped this much. "1 day left," Iris said. "Of the agreement." "I know. I leave tomorrow." Edward turned, looked at her. Not that controlled, measuring look. Something else. "I know," he said, and this time the 2 words carried a different weight. Not acceptance. The voice of someone who knows he is about to lose something. Iris stood, walked to the door. As she passed, she stopped, without turning. "I was returning the books," she said. Every time. I wanted you to know that. I know, Edward said. I knew from the beginning. Iris turned. When? When Charlotte told me. He paused. Someone who returns them is not a thief. That was enough for me. Iris looked at him. Long, real, nothing concealed. Then she left. In the corridor, she stopped and drew a deep breath. 1 day left. 1 day, then she would go, 10 pounds in her pocket. Tom's fever broken, permission granted to choose books from the library. It was enough. It had to be. But someone who returns them is not a thief. That sentence remained with her in the corridor, in her steps, as she climbed to her room, until she closed her eyes that night. It had to be enough. But it was not. On the final morning, Iris packed her suitcase at 7. It was far too early. The agreement ended in the afternoon. Charlotte would send the carriage at 2. But Iris had not slept, and not sleeping was better than lying still. So she had risen, packed, made herself ready. Being ready, at least, felt like doing something. She went downstairs. The library door was open. Edward was inside. Again. The 7th morning, the same chair, the fire not yet lit. Iris saw it and felt something strange. She recognized the scene now. In 1 week, it had become a habit without her noticing. Edward lifted his head, looked at the suitcase, looked at Iris. You are ready early? I could not sleep. Edward closed his book. He did not stand. Sit. Iris set the suitcase down and sat, opposite him, where she had sat every morning. The table between them, as always. Neither spoke. That too had become a habit. The quiet of morning, not needing to be filled, not wanting to be filled. Then Edward spoke. My mother spoke to me last night. Iris waited. She knew. Everything. Charlotte's plan, the library, Iris Webb. For how long? From the first day. Iris paused. And she allowed it? She did not allow it, Edward corrected. She did not intervene. There is a difference. Why? Edward looked at her. She said, I did not choose Cecily Pemberton because I wanted her, but because the family wanted her. And people chosen for the sake of family are unhappy. And unhappy people make mistakes. He paused. My mother did not want mistakes. Iris considered that. Lady Margaret, strict, traditional, seeing everything, loved her son. In this way, this distant, provoking way. But she loved him. And what does she say now? Iris asked. Edward smiled, fully, for the first time. She said, that girl reads the right books. Bleak House. Anyone who understands Jarndyce is not a fool. Iris laughed. Unexpected, free, the kind that echoed off library walls. Edward laughed as well, quieter, but real. The laughter passed. Silence returned. But it was different, lighter, as though standing on the edge of something. Iris. For the first time. Not my lady, not Miss, just Iris. Iris heard it, and something shifted inside her. Yes. Edward reached across the table, placed his hand there, on the surface, toward Iris, but not touching. 1 second. 2. Iris placed her hand on the table. Beside his, an inch away. The agreement ends today, Edward said. I know. The 10 pounds are with Charlotte. I know. And after that, Iris looked at him. After that, I go home. There is Tom. There is rent. There is life. I know. Edward paused. But I want to ask you something. Iris waited. This week, false, arranged, planned from beginning to end. Did anything real happen within it? Silence filled the room. Outside, London moved. Horses, carriages, distant voices. Inside, only the question remained, suspended, waiting. Iris looked at him for a moment. Then she moved her hand, from an inch to half. Yes, she said. Nothing more. It was enough. For both of them, it was enough. Edward moved his hand, from half an inch to none. He placed it over hers, lightly for a second, and did not take it away. They both looked out the window, at the streets of London, the morning traffic, an ordinary day. Neither spoke. There was no need. Before noon, Lady Margaret summoned Iris to her study. Alone. No Charlotte, no Edward. Iris entered, sat, waited. Lady Margaret sat at her desk, a paper before her. She looked, with that long, all-seeing gaze. Tom, she said, 14. Natural history and adventure novels. Yes, my lady. Is he improving? His fever has broken, slowly. Lady Margaret nodded. She took the paper and extended it to Iris. Iris took it. Looked. Grosvenor Library letterhead, signed, sealed. A membership certificate, in the name of Iris Webb. Iris looked up. My lady, a child should have access to books, Lady Margaret said. That is not a matter for discussion. She paused. And you will no longer steal them? No. Good. Lady Margaret stood. The conversation was over. Iris stood as well, walked to the door. Miss Webb? Iris turned. Lady Margaret looked at her, long, one final time, recording everything. Read that Jarndyce passage again, she said. Chapter 8. The moment he looks at Esther. I thought of you. Iris's throat tightened. She thanked her. Left. In the corridor, she stopped and held the paper. Grosvenor Library membership, in the name of Iris Webb. Tom could now read any book he wished. At 2, Charlotte sent the carriage. Iris took her suitcase, went downstairs. Edward was waiting at the door. No Charlotte, no Lady Margaret, only Edward. The £10 are with Charlotte, he said. I know. And one more thing. Edward took a paper from his pocket, handed it to her. Iris took it, opened it. Grosvenor Library. But this was not a membership. It was a donation receipt. In the name of Tom Webb, annual from the house account. Iris looked at it. This, let Tom read as much as he wishes, Edward said. This is not my condition. It is simply what is right. Iris folded the paper, paused. There was much to say, none of it sufficient. Edward. Iris. They looked at each other, at the door, in the cold London air, where the carriage waited. This agreement ends, Iris said. It does. But could there be another agreement? Edward looked at her, with that full, unguarded smile. On what terms? Undefined, Iris said. Long-term. And no money this time. Edward laughed. Real, the kind that would echo off library walls. Agreed, he said. Iris stepped into the carriage. Edward remained at the door. The carriage moved. Iris turned once. Edward was still there, still watching. Iris turned back and smiled. Free, complete, holding nothing back. The carriage turned the corner, and the house disappeared from sight. Iris held the 2 papers in her hand, the membership certificate and the donation receipt. Then she placed them in her pocket and looked out at the streets of London. The same streets, the same city, yet not the same as a week before, to become different, One did not need to change. Sometimes a week was enough. A year later, Tom recovered. Not completely, slowly, but when spring came, he stepped into the garden for the first time, sat in the sun, a book from Grosvenor Library in his hand. An adventure novel, thick, its pages already worn at the edges. Iris watched him from the window and felt that familiar thing within her, lightness, settled, sufficient. The wedding took place in March. Small. Iris had wanted it that way. Edward had not objected. Lady Margaret had raised an eyebrow once and then said nothing. After the ceremony, Lady Margaret said only one thing to Iris. "Did you read the 8th chapter?" Iris had. "Yes, my lady." Lady Margaret inclined her head. That was enough for her, as it always was. Cecily Pemberton became engaged that same year to Lord Hargreaves's nephew from Winchester. When Charlotte heard, she laughed. Edward said nothing. Iris considered it for a moment and let it pass. That winter, Charlotte met a man in the library. By chance, truly by chance, this time with no plan at all. Iris laughed when she heard it. Charlotte frowned. "What?" "Nothing," Iris said. "Only that it is fair." And every week she took 2 books from Grosvenor Library, with a membership certificate this time, in the name of Iris Webb Ashmore. She read them all. She returned them all. Some habits did not change. They simply became lawful. Thank you for listening to the story all the way to the end. Please tell us which city you're watching from and what the story made you feel. Don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss new stories.